And like I said, we have a peace building agency, the first of its kind in Nigeria. And they have been working in collaboration with international organizations and NGOs. And that has been helped us to keep the peace for the past 3 years in Plateau State. And of course, several other measures, including the prompt payment of salaries, the interaction, the inclusiveness of Governor Simon Lalong as the leader of the state, is further strategies that have been able to adopt to restore the peace in the state. So we believe with the dialogue that has been opened, especially by President Muhammadu Buhari, and also the establishment of a police mobile force in Gashish, which is actually the center of where these outbreaks. But we'll now be able to have a two-pronged approach where the securities are there to maintain peace and order, and then the people become drivers of the levels of peace and security in the area. And part of the recommendations which was adopted is especially the communities. If people come in like strangers, the first port of call is usually either the traditional institution there. They have to report themselves. They have to be sanctioned. They have to be welcomed by somebody who will now attest to their good behavior. And such creates some form of community monitoring, where each man is another, where each other's keepers. So those kind of strategies had worked in the past, and we're also going to ensure that we strengthen it, because the document we develop and we implementing was developed by the people.
All right, if I could also ask you, there are many conspiracy theories, some of which you may be aware of. Has the state been able to independently verify why this happened?
Well, right now the state is more concerned with restoring peace back. And we know also, just like President Muhammadu Buhari said, the peace process has to be driven by the elders. And that is why even when he interacted with majorly religious, traditional rulers and communities. The Makban was there, the Birom community were there. All that is to ensure that we face the issue that is at stake now, which is ensuring the restoration of peace. And of course, we know there are also elements that want to exploit the unfortunate opportunity to gain political or whatever agenda they have. That we are also mindful of. And that is why we also want to call on members of the public to be wary of some of these pictures and videos that are circulating on the social media said to be from Plateau State. In fact, I was surprised. Somebody from London forwarded a video where people were even speaking French and running all over and to say that it's Plateau. So we also want to use this opportunity to alert members of the public that we have merchants of crisis.
Yeah, but Mr. Dati, sorry to jump in, but I don't understand the correlation between why that happened and what you say is political, because you say the state is more concerned about facing the issue. Can you actually face the issue without knowing why it happened so that it doesn't happen again?
No, why, Chamberlain, these issues are not peculiar to Plateau State. We've had conflicts and attacks that has arisen over, competition for space. Most people look at it more of economical, because we have the farmers who have their farms, and we have the herders who have their cows, and because of the growth in population, there's been a reduction in accessibility to some of these factors of production. So sometimes those interfaces create conflicts, and ours is to ensure that we create an easy platform for the resolution of these conflicts, because there's no society that is without conflict. As I speak with you, you recall that other states across the country, like Zamfara, Benue, have also had their fair share. And what we try to do as a government is to be able to be proactive. And that is why we are taking certain measures, because the measures we took had worked for us for the past 3 years. So if there are gaps, it means that we have to also look at how to fill those gaps. And that is why we are pursuing the issue of arresting criminal elements. We're happy that the police have told us that arrests have been made, and our hope is that they will be prosecuted immediately such that people will see that justice is being done. Secondly, to strengthen the safety and security of lives and property around that area. And that is why we are advocating for the establishment of a police mobile barracks in Gashish, which is the center, the theater of what all this happened. Secondly, we are also asking for the support from the Victim Support Fund of 10 billion naira by the federal government, such that those who have been affected will be, compensated or, supported to reduce the human suffering and also feel that justice has been done to a level. Because sometimes most of these things lead to what we call reprisals. And this reprisals,
if I could just butt in here, Mr. Dati,
that they have not, justice has not been paid.
If I could just butt in here, Mr. Dati, my apologies. But I know that there is a Rukuba barracks in Jos. Are you saying that Rukuba barracks is unable to respond as quickly as possible to crises such as this one?
Well, the fact remains that the military high command take their instructions from the headquarters. So it's not about prompt reaction, it's more about where did they get the directive. You recall that one of the governors about 2 weeks ago even said he was resigning as the chief security officer because the levels of security are not controlled by the state governors. But we are not looking at that as a hindrance. We are going beyond that. But to back to your question, we don't have the military, like do not report to the governors. They report to the commander-in-chief. So if there are reports, there has to be that process of taking clearance before they can move. Apart from the Rukuba barracks, we also have the STF, which has been stationed in Jos for the past 10 years. And they have been operating and assisting. Right now, we are trying to get more, they are trying to get more motorbikes because of the terrain, because where most of these things happen are usually far off in the very difficult terrains where you hardly have roads and the mobile networks are hardly available there. So they're also trying to adopt new systems like introducing motorcycles such that when there is any pursuit, because most of the time when the attacks are made, they run back into the bushes where they are most familiar with. So with strategies like the motorbikes, it will be able to confront and arrest such criminal gangs.
Because the reason why I'm pointing that out is if the Rukuba barracks is not as effective as it should be, perhaps the position or the location of the Rukuba barracks should be moved from there to those volatile areas between Riyom Kuru, Barkin Ladi, and Jos South local government areas where there has been these persistent killings of people there. Would you subscribe to that kind of advisory?
Well, to be sincere with you, there was even a recent outbreak just within the vicinity of Rukuba barracks where there were such attacks by the Uruguay community. In fact, about a week ago, they had to come to the barracks to even protest because even with the outbreak where the barracks was closely located and they were seeing what was happening, there was the reaction, the responses were not satisfactory to the members of the community. And that is because the military have their patterns and their engagement patterns where they have to follow certain rules of engagement. And that also portends that they have to get clearance from the command headquarters. So those are some of the issues that are affecting us. But we know that with the mobile police who are actually trained to operate with the civil society, there may be, with the presence, the physical presence there, we believe will further assist in ensuring that people know that the law is there and knowing that whoever contravenes the law will be dealt with immediately.
You know also that the traditional ruler, the Bongom Jos himself, he is a man I know that is very peace welcoming. What has he said so far to especially the indigenous people of Plateau State, the Biroms, the Angazawas?
Well, the issues are issues that have to do with land, and the presentations made was the issue of because most of the communities have Fulanis who have lived over a long period. In fact, His Royal Majesty the Gongon Jost himself, whose name is Gyan Buba, said the name Buba is even a Fulani name, not a Biram name, which was given by his grandfather to his father, because the grandfather had a friend who is a Fulani. So we are talking about communities that have been living together. But because of the pressures of land following the growth in population, you find that there's a lot of encroachment to the farming community who rely on these farms for their daily subsistence. And now you find the herders who are coming to encroach on the land where they have done their planting. So you begin to find some areas of conflict and stress. So what we are trying to do is begin to manage this conflict. Right. Like there was also the issue of land grabbing, where some of these herders begin to move. When the communities move, they go and take over and they do not allow them to come back. Right. So the governor has clearly, emphatically said that these areas will be addressed such that people who have their ancestral lands should be returned to them.
All right,
and then also space should be created for the herders for the down.
We'll anchor at this point, but we'll also get back to you much later as the conversation continues. Thank you very much indeed for talking to us today.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I thank you for commiserating the people and government of Plateau.
All right, thank you, Mr. Dati.